The year 1914. A year that would be etched into the annals of history, not for its beginnings but for its cataclysmic end. It was a time when the world stood on the precipice of change, unaware of the storm that was about to engulf it. A year that began with hope but ended in despair. The streets were filled with joy and optimism as people celebrated the dawn of a new era. Yet beneath the surface, tensions simmered, waiting to explode. A year that saw the world plunge into a conflict so devastating it would forever be known as the Great War. The drums of war echoed across continents, calling young men to the front lines where they would face unimaginable horrors. Millions of soldiers and civilians perished, empires crumbled, the landscapes of Europe were scarred by trenches and battlefields, a grim testament to the ferocity of the conflict. Families were torn apart, and entire generations were lost to the ravages of war. The old world order was shattered, the once mighty empires of Europe lay in ruins, their power and influence diminished. The political landscape was forever altered as new nations emerged from the ashes of the old. While the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, is often cited as the spark that ignited the powder keg, the truth is far more complex. This single event set off a chain reaction, but the underlying causes had been brewing for years. A tangled web of political ambitions, economic rivalries and social tensions had been building for decades, ultimately leading to the cataclysm of World War I. The alliances and treaties that bound nations together also set the stage for a conflict of unprecedented scale. This essay will delve into the true reasons behind the outbreak of the war. We will peel back the layers of history to uncover the motivations and decisions that led to the greatest conflict the world had ever seen. We will explore the political landscape of Europe in the early 20th century, the intricate web of alliances and rivalries that defined the era, and how these relationships set the stage for a global conflict. We will examine the economic and colonial competition that fueled tensions between the great powers. The race for resources and territories created an atmosphere of distrust and competition, further exacerbating the already volatile situation. And we will uncover the conspiracy theories that have swirled around the war's origins for over a century. From secret meetings to hidden agendas, the shadowy undercurrents of history will be brought to light, revealing the complex and often murky motivations behind the war. As we journey through this tumultuous period, we will gain a deeper understanding of the forces that shaped the world we live in today. The Great War was not just a conflict of nations, but a clash of ideologies, ambitions, and human frailties. It was a war that changed everything, and its echoes can still be felt in the present day. Join us as we unravel the story of a world engulfed by war and the lessons it holds for future generations. To understand the outbreak of World War I, one must first understand the political landscape of Europe in the early 20th century. This was a time of great change and upheaval, with nations jockeying for power and influence on a global scale. The continent was a patchwork of empires, kingdoms and republics, each with its own ambitions and fears. The Industrial Revolution had transformed economies and societies, leading to rapid urbanization and technological advancements. However, it also brought about new tensions and rivalries as nations competed for resources and markets. Europe was a continent divided. The major powers were constantly maneuvering for advantage, forming alliances and counter-alliances in a bid to secure their interests. The political landscape was marked by a delicate balance of power, with each nation wary of the other's intentions. This fragile equilibrium was maintained through a complex web of treaties and agreements, but it was always at risk of being upset by the ambitions of individual leaders or the pressures of domestic politics. A network of alliances, both formal and informal, bound the great powers together in a complex web of obligations and rivalries. These alliances were meant to provide security and deter aggression, but they also created a situation where a conflict involving one power could quickly draw in others. The most significant of these alliances were the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance, which divided Europe into two opposing camps. On one side stood the Triple Entente, comprised of France, Russia, and Great Britain. These nations had their own reasons for coming together. France sought to counterbalance the growing power of Germany, which had humiliated it in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870–71. Russia, with its vast but underdeveloped empire, was looking to assert its influence in Eastern Europe and the Balkans. Great Britain, the world's preeminent naval power, was concerned about maintaining its global dominance in the face of rising German naval ambitions. On the other side stood the Triple Alliance of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. Germany, a relatively new nation-state formed in 1871, was eager to establish itself as a major European power. Austria-Hungary, a multi-ethnic empire struggling with internal divisions, sought to maintain its status and territorial integrity. Italy, the weakest of the three, joined the alliance in hopes of gaining support for its own territorial ambitions in the Mediterranean and North Africa. We must assert our nation's growing might on the world stage. The era of German ascendancy has begun, and we will not be overshadowed by the old powers of Europe. Our military strength and industrial prowess will secure our place in the sun. At the helm of these empires stood powerful and ambitious leaders. These men were often driven by a mix of personal ambition, national pride, and a desire to leave their mark on history. Their decisions and actions would play a crucial role in shaping the events that led to the outbreak of war. Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany, eager to assert his nation's growing might on the world stage. Wilhelm was a complex and often contradictory figure, known for his bombastic speeches and aggressive foreign policy. He believed in the idea of Weltpolitik, or world policy, which aimed to expand German influence and challenge the established powers. Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria-Hungary, presiding over a crumbling empire riven by ethnic tensions. Franz Joseph had been on the throne for over 6 decades, and his reign was marked by a series of crises and challenges. The diverse and often restive populations of his empire were a constant source of instability, and the emperor struggled to maintain control over his fractious realm. Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, an autocratic ruler struggling to maintain control over a vast and restive population. Nicholas was seen as a weak and indecisive leader, and his regime faced growing opposition from various political and social groups. The pressures of governing such a large and diverse empire were immense, and the Tsar's inability to address the needs and aspirations of his people would contribute to the eventual downfall of his dynasty. The Balkans, a region long plagued by instability and conflict, became a tinderbox. The decline of the Ottoman Empire had left a power vacuum in the region, and the newly independent Balkan states were eager to expand their territories and assert their independence. This led to a series of conflicts and rivalries that further destabilized the region. The Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913, fueled by nationalist aspirations and territorial disputes, further heightened tensions in the region. These wars saw the Balkan states fighting against the Ottoman Empire and each other, leading to significant territorial changes and a further escalation of hostilities. The outcome of these conflicts left many unresolved issues and set the stage for the larger conflagration that would soon engulf Europe. Beyond the political maneuvering, economic rivalry played a crucial role in setting the stage for war. The Industrial Revolution had transformed the landscape of Europe, bringing about significant changes in the way nations operated and competed with one another. The late 19th and early 20th centuries witnessed an unprecedented period of industrial and economic growth, particularly in Germany. This growth was not just a matter of national pride, but a strategic necessity, as industrial power was directly linked to military strength and global influence. This rapid expansion, however, led to increased competition for resources and markets. European nations were no longer content with their existing territories and sought to expand their influence and control over new regions, leading to a scramble for resources that would fuel their industrial machines. Germany, hungry for colonies and prestige, found itself increasingly at odds with Great Britain, the dominant global power of the era. The British Empire, with its vast colonial holdings, was seen as both a model and a rival by the burgeoning German state. The scramble for colonies in Africa and Asia further exacerbated tensions. These regions were rich in raw materials and offered new markets for European goods, making them highly coveted by the industrial powers of Europe. The race to acquire territories, secure raw materials and control strategic trade routes fueled a dangerous sense of competition and mistrust among the European powers. Each nation sought to outmaneuver the others, leading to a web of alliances and rivalries that would eventually draw the entire continent into conflict. This competition extended beyond the economic realm. The desire for military dominance became a driving force, as nations believed that a strong military was essential for protecting their interests and deterring potential adversaries. An arms race, fueled by technological advancements and a climate of fear and suspicion, gripped Europe. Innovations in weaponry and military tactics meant that nations were constantly seeking to outdo one another, leading to an ever-escalating cycle of military build-up. Military spending soared as each nation sought to outdo its rivals in military might. The period from 1900 to 1914 saw a dramatic increase in the budgets allocated to defence, with nations pouring resources into building larger armies and more powerful navies. This relentless focus on military preparedness created an atmosphere of tension and anticipation, as the great powers of Europe stood on the brink of war, each waiting for the slightest provocation to unleash their newfound might. Diplomatic efforts to ease tensions were often overshadowed by the underlying mistrust and the desire for strategic advantage. Treaties and alliances were formed, but they were frequently seen as temporary measures, subject to change as the balance of power shifted. Meanwhile, the people of Europe went about their daily lives largely unaware of the storm that was brewing. The rapid pace of industrialization and the promise of progress masked the underlying tensions that were building beneath the surface. The media played a significant role in shaping public perception, often stoking nationalist sentiments and portraying rival nations as threats. This contributed to a climate of fear and suspicion, making it easier for governments to justify their aggressive policies and military expenditures. Despite the looming threat of conflict, European society continued to thrive in many ways. Cultural and intellectual life flourished with advancements in science, art and literature. However, this period of relative prosperity and creativity was overshadowed by the growing sense of unease and the ever-present possibility of war. As the great powers of Europe continued to prepare for the possibility of war, military drills and training exercises became a common sight. Soldiers were trained and equipped with the latest technology, ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. Political leaders gave speeches that emphasized the need for vigilance and preparedness, often invoking patriotic themes to rally public support. The rhetoric of nationalism and the call to defend the nation became central to the political discourse of the time. As night fell over the cities of Europe, the lights of factories and homes continued to burn brightly, a testament to the industrial might and the restless energy of a continent on the brink of a new era. The scramble for power, driven by economic rivalry, colonial ambitions and military competition, had set the stage for a conflict that would reshape the world. It was against this backdrop of political tension, economic rivalry and military build-up that the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand took place. On June 28, 1914, Gavrilo Princip, a young Serbian nationalist, fired the shots that would have unimaginable consequences. Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife, Sophie, were visiting Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina, a province recently annexed by Austria-Hungary. The assassination sent shockwaves through Europe. Austria-Hungary, determined to crush Serbian nationalism and assert its authority, saw an opportunity to deliver a decisive blow to its troublesome neighbour. Serbia, for its part, looked to its powerful ally Russia for support. The system of alliances designed to maintain peace began to unravel. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating content. Hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest videos. See you next time.